trash belongs with trash. That's what my father announced into the microphone while dangling the old yellow passbook my grandfather had just secretly handed me. He didn't just mock it. He dropped the book straight into a bucket of melting ice and champagne while the crowd roared with laughter. I didn't scream. I plunged my hand into the freezing water and ruined my wedding dress just to save those wet pages. Then I walked out without looking back. Before I tell you the secret hiding inside those wet ruined pages and how I used it to destroy my father's fake empire, tell me in the comments, what is the cruelest thing a family member has ever done to you at a celebration? Because I'm reading every single story. 3 days later, I walked into the First National Bank in downtown Boston. The lobby was all marble and hushed whispers, which was a stark contrast to the chaos I had left behind in an Newport. I held the passbook in a plastic Ziploc bag because the pages were crinkled and stained with champagne residue, looking exactly like the trash my father said it was. I'm Alyssa, and at 29, I've spent my life making myself invisible. As a trauma nurse, I'm good at it. I know how to fade into the background while doctors scream and patients bleed. Standing there in my thrifted coat waiting for the young teller to stop typing, I felt exposed. I need to check the balance on this, I said, sliding the bag across the polished counter. The teller was a girl no older than 20, and she picked it up with 2 fingers like it was dirty. She typed in the account number, probably expecting an error message or a balance of 0. But then she stopped. Her fingers hovered over the keys, and she blinked. She leaned closer to the screen, and the color drained from her face. "Ma'am," she whispered, her voice trembling, "please wait here, do not leave." She didn't press a silent alarm, but she might as well have, because within seconds the branch manager and a man in a bespoke suit were rushing toward me. They didn't look at my cheap coat. They looked at me like I was royalty in exile. "Miss Mercer," the director said, ushering me toward a heavy steel door in the back, "please. We've been waiting for this account to be claimed for a very long time." They led me into a private viewing room that smelled of old paper and dust. As they went to retrieve the file, I sat in the leather chair and closed my eyes. Suddenly, I wasn't in a bank vault. I was 12 years old, again kneeling on the hardwood floor of my father's study. Richard sat in his armchair swirling a glass of scotch, watching me because he had spilled it on purpose. I knew he had, but the rule was simple. Girls clean and boys conquer. My brother Hunter was on the sofa laughing at a video game with his feet propped up on the table I had just polished. "You missed a spot, Alyssa," Richard said softly. He didn't yell because he preferred an audience for his cruelty. He liked to see the light go out in my eyes. When Grandpa Samuel tried to help me up, Richard's voice turned into a whip. "Touch that rag, old man, and I'll put you in a state home so fast you won't even have time to pack your pills." I scrubbed until my knuckles bled that day because I believed I had no value outside of what I could endure. But the heavy clank of the vault door brought me back. I opened my eyes, and I wasn't that 12-year-old girl anymore. I was the woman holding the match. The director placed a thick file on the table. "Your grandfather didn't just open a savings account, Miss Mercer. In 1980, he established a Totten Trust. He was an early investor in Apple and Microsoft, and he funneled every dividend back into the portfolio untouched for 40 years. He turned the document toward me, and the number sat there on the page, black and absolute. $12,400,000. I stared at it, and I thought about the champagne bucket. I thought about Richard laughing into the microphone, calling this fortune trash. He had held $12 million in his hand and thrown it away because he was too arrogant to look inside the cover. "Is there anyone else listed on the account?" I asked, my voice calm and clinical. "No," the director said, "just you is entirely yours." I touched the dried, ruined passbook. It wasn't just money, it was a weapon, and for the first time in my life, I knew exactly where to aim it. My husband, Luke, didn't look up when I walked through the door. He was hunched over his laptop at the kitchen island, surrounded by a fortress of printed spreadsheets. The air in our small apartment felt electric charged with the static of something about to break. Luke isn't just a data analyst, he's a forensic architect of secrets who finds the cracks in the foundation that nobody else sees. It's not an empire, Alyssa, he said, finally turning the screen toward me. His voice was flat, devoid of emotion. It's a Ponzi scheme built on bridge loans and ego. I looked at the monitor expecting to see wealth. I expected to see the millions Richard bragged about at every charity gala and family dinner, but instead I saw red. He's insolvent, Luke said, tapping a document. The mansion in Newport started foreclosure proceedings 3 weeks ago, and the family trust he claims to manage is empty. He's been moving the same $50,000 between 6 different shell accounts to make it look like he has liquidity. And here's the kicker, he's being audited because the IRS sent him a notice of deficiency last month. I stared at the numbers, realizing the man who had thrown my grandfather's legacy into a champagne bucket wasn't a titan of industry. He was a drowning man flailing in a sea of debt who didn't just want money, he needed it to stay out of federal prison. My phone rang, and it was him, so I put it on speaker while Luke stopped typing. Alyssa Richards' voice filled the kitchen, and there was no apology, no hesitation, just the brash confidence of a man who believed he still owned the world. I've been thinking about that check your grandfather left you, the cottage. What about it? I asked, my hand resting on the table to steady the tremor, but my voice was ice. I'm going to do you a favor, he said. I've spoken to my real estate attorney, and we can liquidate it quickly. I'll handle the sale, get you a fair market price, and invest the proceeds into the family business so you actually get a return. You're a nurse, honey. You don't know the first thing about property taxes or maintenance. I'm trying to save you from a headache, he said. He wanted the cottage because it was the only tangible thing Samuel had left me besides the passbook. It was worth maybe $300,000, which was peanuts to a billionaire, but a lifeline to a desperate fraudster. I'm not selling, Dad, I said, and the line went silent before the mask slipped. You listen to me, he snarled, his voice dropping an octave. That old man was mentally incompetent when he signed that deed, and I have witnesses ready to testify that you manipulated a senile geriatric into signing over family assets. If you don't sign that transfer paperwork by Friday, I will sue you for elder abuse. I will drag you through probate court until you're bankrupt. Do you understand me? You're out of your depth, Alyssa. He wasn't protecting me, he was hunting for liquidity. Any asset he could seize, sell, and funnel into his black hole of debt. I understand perfectly, I said. Good, I'll have the papers sent over, he said, and the line clicked dead. I looked at Luke, and he wasn't scared, he was smiling, a cold, sharp smile that matched the feeling rising in my chest. Richard thought he was bullying a helpless daughter, but he didn't know he had just handed us the blueprint to his own destruction. He was desperate, and desperate men make mistakes. I waited 24 hours before calling him back because silence is a powerful amplifier that lets the desperation breed. Luke and I spent that day not in panic, but in preparation. We didn't hire a lawyer to fight the sale of the cottage. Instead, we hired a graphic designer to forge a portfolio of investment documents. When I finally dialed Richard's number, I put on the performance of my life. I didn't summon the confident woman who had walked out of the bank vault. I summoned the 12-year-old girl terrified of speed. Ling Scotch, Dad, I whispered when he picked up, letting my voice tremble. I'm sorry. I hung up. I didn't know what to say. You should be sorry, he snapped. But the edge was duller because he was listening. It's not just the cottage, I said, pitching my voice to the perfect frequency of naive panic. I went to the bank. The passbook wasn't empty. The line went dead silent, and I could practically hear him doing the mental calculus. How much, he asked, and the greed leaked through the phone like oil. $12 million, I choked out. But Dad, I don't know what to do, because the bank manager started talking about capital gains taxes and federal audit. And I think I'm in trouble. If the IRS finds out I have this, he'll take half of it. I don't know how to hide it, I said, and it was the perfect bait, because I handed him exactly what he believed about me. That I was weak, stupid, and incapable of handling power. I handed him Exactly what he needed, which was a massive injection of liquidity to cover his own crimes. "Listen to me very carefully, Alyssa," he said, and his voice transformed instantly from bully to savior, which was chilling. "Do not sign anything with the bank and do not talk to any lawyers. You bring that paperwork to me because I can shelter it under the family trust. We can classify it as a pre-existing asset. It's complicated, but I can make the tax liability disappear. I'm doing this for you, sweetheart, to protect you. Protect me." He didn't want to protect me, he wanted to swallow the inheritance whole to plug the holes in his sinking ship. "Can we do it tonight?" I asked. "No," he said quickly, because he needed time to prepare the fake transfer papers. "I have the Man of the Year gala on Saturday in Boston, and it's perfect. Bring the documents there and we'll sign everything in the VIP suite before the speeches, because I'll announce the expansion of He Family Fund. It'll look legitimate," he said, but really he wanted the audience. He wanted the glory of announcing a $12 million windfall as his own business genius. "Okay," I said, "thank you, Dad, thank you for fixing this. That's what fathers are for," he said, and I hung up. I looked at Luke, and the fear vanished from my face instantly. "He took it," I said, and Luke nodded, already printing the documents we would actually present. They looked exactly like the standard transfer forms Richard would expect, with the same font and the same headers. But the fine print wasn't a transfer of funds, it was an affidavit of sole liability. Richard thought he was reeling in a clueless daughter, but he didn't realize he had just invited the executioner to his own party. The Man of the Year charity gala was held in the grand ballroom of the Fairmont Copley Plaza, where crystal chandeliers drip light onto the shoulders of Boston's elite. It was a room full of old money, political power, and in my father's case, desperate clawing ambition. I arrived at 7:55 in the evening, and I wasn't wearing the beige, sensible clothes Richard preferred me in. I was wearing a structured red dress that cost more than my car. I walked through the crowd, not around it, and I saw Hunter near the bar laughing too loudly and already 3 drinks deep. He didn't see me because he was too busy playing the role of the dolphin to a non-existent kingdom. Richard was at the front of the room, flanked by 2 senators, looking radiant. It was the glow of a man who thought he had just pulled off the heist of the century until he saw me approaching. His smile didn't waver, but his eyes narrowed. He excused himself and met me near the stage steps. "You're late," he hissed through his teeth, keeping his smile plastered on for the photographers. "Do you have it?" "I have it," I said, holding out the blue leather presentation folder. He snatched it from my hand, and his greed was a physical force vibrating off him like heat. "Is it all there?" he asked. "The transfer authorizations and the power of attorney." "It's all there, Dad, just like you asked," I said. "It puts the entire $12 million under the control of the family trust. So you just need to sign as the sole trustee to accept the assets." He opened the folder and he didn't read the clauses, he didn't check the definitions, he just saw the signature line. A smart man would have asked why the document was titled Affidavit of Historical Management and Sole Liability. A smart man would have wondered why the dates listed went back 20 years, linking him retroactively to every shell company listed in the appendix. But Richard wasn't smart, he was arrogant. He believed so fully in his own dominance that he couldn't conceive of a world where I was the threat. He pulled the Montblanc pen from his pocket. "You did the right thing, Alyssa," he said, scribbling his signature with a flourish. Finally, he handed the folder back to me, dismissive, already turning his attention to the podium. "Go find a seat in the back," he ordered. "I have an announcement to make." He bounded up the stairs to the stage, and the room quieted as the spotlight hit him. I didn't retreat to the back, I moved to the side. I photographed the signature page and hit send. 3 miles away, Luke received the photo. He attached it to the whistleblower complaint we'd finalized days earlier and uploaded it to the DOJ's secure portal. Moments later, Richard took the microphone, saying, "Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we launch a historic expansion of the Mercer Family Foundation, a $12 million investment in this city's future." He was confessing in real time in front of 500 witnesses. He claimed ownership of funds I had just tied to 2 decades of tax fraud, thinking he was unveiling his legacy, but he was actually reading his own Miranda rights. My phone buzzed, receiving IRS confirmation code 99 Alpha. It's done. Richard was still smiling when the 60-foot LED screen behind him flickered. The foundation logo vanished, replaced by a Department of Justice seal stamped with red letters reading Federal Asset Seizure in Progress Case E-E-for-2. Applause collapsed into silence, and Richard turned confused rather than afraid. His mind was rejecting a reality that didn't match his script, which was his fatal flaw. It wasn't ignorance, it was entitlement, because he never believed someone he dismissed as insignificant could build a trap big enough to hold him. The ballroom doors burst open and 6 IRS SID agents swept down the aisle. Richard Mercer, the lead agent, ordered, "Step away from the podium." Richard clutched the mic. "Do you know who I am?" "We do," the agent replied. "You're the sole trustee who signed an affidavit accepting responsibility for 20 years of unreported offshore accounts." Richard spun toward me, shouting, "She tricked me, my daughter." "Save it for the grand jury," the agent said as handcuffs snapped shut. Cameras flashed as he was led away, stripped of grandeur, reduced to a man in a rented tux. I thought it was over, but it wasn't, because the VIP suite door slammed and the lock clicked. Hunter stood there, sweating, purple-faced and frantic. "You ruined everything," he hissed. "It was already ruined," I said. "The money never existed." He grabbed a serrated steak knife, and this wasn't strategy anymore, it was raw instinct. The moment when the illusion of family collapses and desperation shows its teeth. Luke stepped in front of me, saying, "Open the door, Hunter." Hunter lunged, but Luke caught his wrist, twisted, and the arm snapped, sending the knife skidding across the marble. When agents forced the door open, my brother was sobbing, not from pain, but from irrelevance. That was 3 weeks ago, and this morning Newport smells like salt and fresh coffee. I'm sitting on the porch of my cottage. Mine. I fixed the roof, cleared the ivy, and made it a home. Richard was denied bail, his assets are frozen, and his empire liquidated. Hunter took a plea, so no inheritance awaits him, only work. I burned the affidavit on the porch because I don't need it anymore. The IRS and DOJ already have everything that matters, and this page was just the fear I used to carry. Luke sits beside me. "The trust transfer is complete. It's all yours. What do you want to do with it?" I look at the ocean, $12 million, and say nothing. Let it grow. I'm still a nurse, still a listener. The money and power, it's protection. Family is ant blood. It's who stands with you when the vault opens.